computer. There we go. Okay, fantastic. Alrighty, so hopefully you can see shared screen now, and we're going to be talking about lead generation today. Can everyone see that okay?
We're seeing your desktop with a couple of tape.
You're seeing my desktop. Okay. Right. Okay.
Reminders on.
There we go. Oh, no, not that. I want to see that. Share.
That's the one.
That better. You know, sold this stuff for 30 years, can't work it. But that's a different skill, and I never purported to be able to work it. So I'm going to stick with that if that's all right. Okay. Medwin, give us a smile. Show me you're engaged. Okay, right. Fantastic. All right. Okay, so did anyone have any further thoughts from last week? We talked about, we've got our message, we're taking it to market. Were there any sort of light bulb moment? It doesn't matter if there weren't. Well, it'd be ideal if there was, but did it sort of alter your thinking about your respective businesses at all? Okay, Medwin, tell us a bit about that.
Sorry, my screen's being weird. I'm just trying to sort this out.
Okay, right. Okay. What about, are you sorted, or you want to carry on sorting?
Give me 2 minutes to fix this.
Okay, all right. Darryl, what were your thoughts? Did anything any light bulb
last week?
You what, sorry?
I think it flew by last week. And when I looked at the slide pack, there was a few things at the end that we probably covered, but I think we all, should we say, engaged a lot. And so it was, I don't know, it just, the 2 hours just seemed to just blitz by, really.
Okay. I'm presuming that, okay, right. So does that mean, and I'm interested in the feedback. This is the fourth sort of time I've run this fourth cohort, and I hope it's improving all the time. But am I trying to pack too much in?
No, I don't think that. I thought it was just the case that there was quite a lot of natural engagement. There was a couple of conversations that probably went round for a while, and it's a consequence. And I think we've got the slide packs, and it's a case that obviously if we do see something, we know where you are, and it's something that we can raise next week or whatever we need to do. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's because the most important thing is not showing off my prowess on PowerPoint. It's about the quality of learning experience, and I haven't got a monopoly on wisdom. So I think as a cohort, we kind of come together. My responsibility is to ensure that the maximum amount of learning and progress takes place. That's my responsibility. It's very different from being a university lecturer, where that is true to a certain extent, but actually there's more emphasis on the lecturer than there would be in a situation like this. Anyway, I'm running on now. So, okay, so that's encouraging. Laurie, did you want to say anything about last week, or you want to carry on, or?
Yeah, I'm happy to continue on. I had some questions about my niche and about improving maybe my message, and so it's given me a lot of food for thought. So yeah, it was good. I'm ready to keep going.
Good, thank you. What about Rachel?
Yeah, I think last week was good. I think the key message that I got from it really is not to waste our time. So to create those avatars and really think about what types of businesses we want to attract, and then go to those areas where they will be. So don't be wasting your time at events or, within groups where the people aren't there. Make sure you really think. Don't waste your time. really hone down your offer.
Yeah. That's a really good outcome if we achieve that, Rachel. Thank you. And on your points, Laurie, I am reminded of a piece that I read a couple of weeks ago where you're talking about niching down, and I can't remember the specifics, but there was a woman that was running a coaching business, and this really was niche. Now I'll try, if I remember where I got it, I'll circulate it. But I don't think you can niche down far enough. That's what I'm saying. If you are really, really specific, that drives everything that you do. And but I am reminded about Southwest Airlines in the United States, Herb Kelleher, who started and ran that, and they were one of the first budget airlines in the world. And he had a really simple mantra about when any of his direct reports came in with a suggestion as to how to improve the business or direction to take the business in. His test would be, is this taking us further towards our goal of low-cost airline or further away from? And I think now that's very black and white, but I think deliberately so. And I think that kind of points towards your niche, Laurie, where you have a very specific niche. And I feel for Rachel's business, the university, of course, which really has a very broad kind of remit, and it's almost three or four businesses in one. So it takes
sometimes if it's too big, it's actually harder, because for the grant that I was with before, it was so specific who we wanted to work with that we could really crack on with some decent targeted marketing, which is where what I really love.
Yeah.
But when you think about training for businesses, that's a massive area, you know. So my pool is much bigger now than it was in my previous role, but it's like, wow, where do I start?
Yeah, exactly. And Medwin, for your business with you've got your screen sorted out.
Yeah, all sorted. So I've got you guys up here and then my notes down here. It was playing silly buggers a minute ago. It's all sorted now though.
Okay, fantastic. All right then. So I can't even remember what I was going to say, but I'm sure it was enlightening. Okay, if it comes back to me, I will. It was niching, and it was. No, you've got quite a bit of the market of you that you operate in. So, are you thinking about new markets, or are you thinking about what are you thinking about?
Yeah, so thinking about new markets, sort of particularly moving sort of north, so up towards Scotland. I think Scotland to start with, and then possibly onto Northern Ireland as well. Right. We have, in the last few weeks, managed to land clients in Africa as well. So we're hoping that can open some more doors that I can try and get my foot through as well. But to start with, at least, I think Scotland.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And I think today's sort of discussions will tease some of those points out so we can kind of hone, which is the whole point, right? So just in case you're wondering. Okay, right. So gender, again, we'll try and take a quick break at 10:30, stretching break, brew, whatever it happens to be. And right, summary of last week then, we talked about segmentation, which is the business school sort of language, or but different people call it different things. We might call them niches as well. And your message, really interesting what you said there, Medwin, about Africa. The needs of Africa may be different to the needs of your customers here. So the point is, think about it, and your core business, what you do, probably won't change, but your messaging needs to be appropriate for that market. So what's that McKinsey adage? Think global, act local, and that'll be the way around that. Alignment of all your messages across your social media stack, and of course, if you've got lots of data, actually you don't need a lot, you just need the right type of data. What's it telling you? So I always go back to my passion is working with smaller and micro businesses. Now I know, Rachel, you work for a massive business, but actually some of your customers are micro businesses. That's the point. Similarly with Daryl, and I just want to make sure that we're getting so that's my sort of route to market, but then getting calls from BT and a couple of other universities. It's what the market. So it's all very well us knowing what we want to do. That's really good, but actually, what does the market think of you? And that's really interesting, if nothing else. And you can choose to accept that advice and take that business consciously, or you can reject it because no, I want to do this. And we'll come on to what's worse than no business in a second. Grammar, particular. Now, I'm a real. I'm trying to find a polite expression, but whatever. I am a grammar. Then fill in the rest of that. That's conjunctive, I suppose. But I'm a real stickler for grammar. But of course, I recognise that we speak the King's English as it is now, but in lots of countries around the world, the American spelling, obviously in the United States being one of them, the American spelling has taken over, and lots of Southeast Asia, they spell the same way as they do in the United States, not in the UK. Now, as irritating as that is, it's just a fact. I'm not going to be able to change that. And so if you want to do business in those localities, you are going to have to appeal to those customers, your avatars that you've created. You're going to have to present yourself in a way that they find attractive. And it's most likely that if you can tailor your spelling according to that market, or grammar according to that market, you'll be more successful. There are occasions where, and Eastern Europe is one of those, where big institutions are not trusted for obvious reasons. If we read the papers right now, big institutions are not trusted. And actually, if you present yourself as a should we say, well, I'm going to say UK because we're in the UK, but if you present yourself as, say, having the moral high ground, then actually that may be more attractive in that particular market than presenting yourself as a local entity. It's whomever is perceived as the most credible, if you like. So the point is, think consciously about that. Don't sleepwalk into a particular way of operating because you've not really thought about it. That's the key takeaway. All right, so we're here. This is best practice again on 3 lead generation. Next week we'll be talking about deal qualification. We've got a lead coming in through the door, and we want to find out, do we want this or not? Okay, so first action of today is I want to take 60 seconds for you to think about, and Medwin's already referenced one, think about where your last, let's say, 3 leads came from. I've called them client, but they're leads really. And how did they make their way to you? Was it, I won't start the timer just yet, but was it networking? Was it through the website? And let's be absolutely honest on where they actually came from. If you can think of more than 3, fantastic. But I'm just going to set the timer on 60 seconds now, and then let's see where we get to. 10 seconds left. Right. How did we get on with our 60 seconds? Who wants to go first? I'm going to go Medwin.
Cool. So I guess in order, our last three, we had one person came through a contact form on the website. A second person came through the website, but they used our live chat tool, which was great because it was actually about 2 days after we had put it in. So it was good to see that was working. And then the last one, so that this kind of Africa thing has come through someone that my folks met when they were in Botswana, literally just camping, and it turns out he sort of was in charge of this stuff for his organization. So just
Wow.
a chance.
I'm going to put that down to networking, although not all of us are going to be going, well, unless Rachel wants to organise something in Botswana, that would be fantastic. Yeah, ask Sam, see what he says. That'll be really good. So website was really important to you then, and live chat was really important. So just to clarify my understanding, are you saying you'd only installed live chat and a couple of days later you landed a lead? Okay.
Yeah, so we've been trying to think about how we can kind of better our support offer. And part of that was through putting a support page on the website. And I've written several articles that we get, kind of frequently asked questions type stuff. So if people do come to us and say, this is our issue, it's easier to kind of triage it by saying, have you looked at our help articles? And then we thought, this system we're using does offer a chat option as well. We set it up, and within 2 days, someone came in and we had a little notification bell ringing on the laptop, and it was someone asking about how to go through procurement, which was really cool.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Park factors for a second, maybe. So I want to come back to live chat. That's really important. Who wants to go next? Laurie.
Yeah, makes no difference.
Okay.
Through marketing agency, which came through Wallaxy. That's on the boardroom advisor side. Next one is potential business sale, which just came from meeting somebody at an event a few weeks ago. And the third one was a short-term project which just completed, which came through the website.
So people are coming in and they're filling in a form. We want to know more about this. Is that
that one was? Yeah, that one was just they filled in the contact form and comes through to my email, start a conversation, etc.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, how is the website informing you about you've got a form filled in, etc.?
If somebody fills a form in, it goes straight into one of my inboxes.
Okay, good. Because I think these things have what I would call a half-life, these kind of leads. Not so much in the highly considered purchase and consulting, but I think you've got to respond pretty quickly. My concern when Medwin said a couple of days was that you had a lead come in and it took you a couple of days to get to it. Okay.
No, it was a couple of days after the tool had been added that the lead came in, and I was on it within like 30 seconds, I think.
No, good for you. Live chat is the Twitter of lead generating. You've got to be right in there in the moment. Rachel, did anything come out for you?
Yeah, so I'm a bit early days in the role, really, and I've not quite gone out to the leads in terms of getting them booked onto a training course. At the moment, I'm working on events and things like that. So I found with the events, looking at what's filled our last two events, it's been our CRM, previous networking that we've done between the three of us, so known contacts. And then I'm thinking for Pappy, the role I was previously in, a lot of it was through emails and directly contacting the business.
Right. So you could, because you're involved in a business which has got quite strong links with the business community. There's a lot of existing contacts, relationships that you can there are different degrees of warmth and experience working with you, but you've got something to work with, lots of data to work with and warm up.
Yeah, and we also we kind of do a lot of, I don't know if it would be called indirect, so we've got stakeholders within the councils who are obviously working with businesses, so we also have to keep our relationships with those people, so that they'll put our events in their newsletters, things like that, so we get a lot of contacts through that way as well.
Yeah, they're almost affiliate kind of brands. Are sort of acting on your behalf or selling on your behalf.
Yeah,
because you've got a common goal there, which is prosperity of local businesses.
Yeah, between us, we're all trying to look after the businesses and
exactly.
Understand what their issues are so we can help them.
Understood. Laurie, we come to you at long last. Okay.
Thanks. I my last two clients came to me through two avenues. I started out on LinkedIn, establishing warm leads through close contact with my connections. So Maya reached out to me to be a connection. I replied to her, oh, it looked like she had a very interesting work, asked her about it. We got into a call, and then she said, she always wanted to come to Ireland. So I said, why don't you come for my event? And she came to the event, and then she became my client. So networking after LinkedIn connection. And the next client came in through a referral from Maya. Maya's like, oh my God, this is an amazing person. It's like she can read my mind. And then the last one came in through face-to-face networking, which just happened yesterday. And all I can tell you is it doesn't matter how awful the networking meeting is going, keep your energy up, because you don't know what's going to happen. And if there is a moment I could share what happened, it was just mind-bending.
Go on, man.
Okay, so I have two businesses. One of them is direct sales. Yeah. And I don't really care if people look down their noses at me over my direct sales. I absolutely adore the product, and I think everybody should have it. And so I'm out there going, yay, I love this stuff. And so I came in with some gifts that I was planning to give to my clients, and I wanted advice from my network on, is this really an appropriate gift? Because I am totally unaware of these things. And they started dissing me in every way. They could not say enough negative stuff. This is really for young people. I'm like, well, my clients are young. What are you talking about? I mean, it's not sustainable and nobody will ever buy this and all this negative stuff. And I'm just like, whatever, you're a bunch of old biddies. You don't know what you're talking about. And then at the end of the meeting, 10 minutes before the end, somebody walked over and said, is this the Women's Inspired Network? I've driven all the way from like 6 hours to get here and I'm late. And she sat down and talked with me, and she booked me as her client. I booked her as my client at the end of all of that.
What is the product that you sell?
The product that I sell is Mary Kay Cosmetics. And it is the most amazing. If you saw a picture of me 3 months ago, you would say that woman is 55 years old. I don't know how old you think I look now, but I feel like I look at least 15 years younger than I did half a month ago. And so I just love the product. It's just incredible, great service. You get your money back. If you don't like it, you can exchange it for something else if it's the wrong color. There's nothing that this company doesn't do. It's great service. Anyway, what I sold was my coaching to this woman. I was there for the Mary Kay, and I sold her a coaching package.
What's the common denominator there? Common denominator is you, right? They bought you, and
Yeah.
that's a really important. Thank you for sharing that. That is really so. Be open to all opportunity, right? Fantastic. Okay, well done.
Well, I can only say that it's the attitude, because I could have been really pissed off by the end of the meeting, and then I could never have booked that client. So the thing is that it doesn't. Yes lives in the village of no, isn't that right, Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Took me a while to compute that, Laurie. That's a little bit heavy for me. Any time, let alone this time. I'm going to inhale some more coffee because I think I need that. Okay, right. So, thank you for engaging on that. So, some key questions to ask ourselves, which will be on the next slide. But to ask ourselves in terms of what are we trying to do here? I think there are two kinds of lead generation strategies. There's passive lead generation, and there's active, and they will become obvious as we kind of move through this. Next stage would be okay, so what are we going to do to generate? And that's why I had you look at where your last 3 leads came from. I don't know if you continually analyze that, but it's a really good discipline to get into at the end of the month, okay, or on closed deals. That's because I'm in a sort of a low volume, higher ticket kind of business, if you like. So it's not like and I'm not looking down my nose at the cosmetics business, because you've just exuded your passion for that, Laurie. It's a very personal connection, especially the selling model that you're adopting there. But it tends to be a higher volume, I would perceive, slightly higher volume in terms of individual products. And anyway, so or I hope I've perceived that correctly. And then measuring your results, really important, because what we think, our intuition is often right, but actually sometimes it's not. And sometimes we can get surprised when we've got sufficient data to work with actually what's going on here. It's incredibly informing. Right. So 3 quick questions to ask ourselves. I think so. How are we generating leads for the business? What channels? Be honest. Now, I love in-person networking. I'm quite a social animal, but I actually don't generate that many leads. I do generate some, but it's not my most, should we say, prolific. It's not the biggest return on my business, even though I really. So I've persuaded myself that actually it's good for my wellness to go out and meet other human beings, and in that way, like you just said, Laurie, you keep your attitude up. It's an enabler for me, and I learn stuff as well, and meeting people, and so I've got to believe that's goodness. But in cold, hard, raw data, it's not my most performant of channels.
You said there's 2 types of lead generation strategy. You said passive, and what was the other one?
Active. Active. I'll be going through those individually in a little bit. So and also so what we've just described, going networking, is what I would call active lead generation. We'll come on to that in a second. Inbound lead generation, Medwins and others coming to your network, is whatever coming into your website, I beg your pardon. You're doing something to generate some kind of traffic. Now, whether that be you've put out an article, you're doing an email campaign, whatever it happens to be, an inbound lead. It's all, they're worth their weight in gold. And the ideal thing is that you're able to generate sufficient inbound leads that you don't need to pay for Facebook advertising campaigns or anything like that, because it's very expensive. What's called cost to acquire, that's very, very expensive. When I was at BT, which I know is another scale, but just to give you our budget for Facebook advertising was 252,000 a week, and the results were, shall we say, mixed. I mean, there is a tsunami of activity that generates, but it's very different from a tsunami of positive results. So you've got to wade through all of that. Okay, right. So, and what's your close rate? Now, your close rate, if 10 opportunities come in, how many of those convert into paid clients? Now, that's a very sobering process to go through. On occasion, you should find that an inbound inquiry, because it converts at a higher rate than outbound cold calling by the telephone or going out to networking events. You should find that inbound converts at a higher rate. It'll be slightly different for each business, but 70% should be your benchmark. Inbound leads are contacting you for a reason, and something like, because they can see all about you, do their research, so they've been able to find out stuff. Maybe you've got a couple of case studies out there. They can, so the whole know, like, trust should already be there, and that's why you should get a higher conversion rate. But it takes work, time, effort to be in a position where you aren't getting those inbound. Sorry, Laurie, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm thinking about my Mary Kay business, and that's going to be, I need inbound leads from that, and networking is not the way to do it, obviously, after yesterday's experience. So I'm trying to generate them, and you mentioned Facebook ads can be very expensive. How do we get the word out there? I mean, is it like radio, or it just?
Well, that's a smart enough question. Well, first of all, you've got a website, then that would be the one thing. If you've got a list, an email list, that's another thing where you can communicate with your audience.
Isn't that outbound?
Well, you asked me a question about what can you do on Mary Kay.
Oh, I see.
Answered it from many perspectives. But going back to your experience, your poor experience that you had, you found out, and it was a painful way of finding out, but you were fishing in the wrong pool, effectively. But that was a lesson learned. It was a lesson learned, and that's as valuable as any other lesson, right? So as painful as that might have been, negative as that might have been. Okay.
I would have thought, Laurie, just my idea, if I was doing cosmetics, do you know many mums? Because if you know some mums, they obviously know other mums, and then you can have like parties, things like that.
Yeah.
I think you could get the word around a few schools. That might be an avenue.
Thank you, Rachel. Actually, the fact that I work with parents who are dealing with anxiety, and the fact that I do cosmetics, which is really kind of something that makes you feel good, I thought they went hand in hand. But yeah, I might do that. Thank you. It's a good idea.
Can I just I'm going to say this, and feel free to challenge me back. Is there potentially a conflict of interest if you are to, if someone comes to you, Laurie, to talk about their anxieties, children's health, etc. And by the way, I do this as well.
Yeah, that doesn't come up in the coaching. Basically, is if they look me up and they see it.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But no, I don't mix the two. The woman actually arrived at the end of the meeting after I'd already done the Mary Kay thing. She didn't see that part. So
Okay.
the coaching happened at a completely separate face-to-face meeting.
Yeah. Okay, good. Hope you don't mind me asking.
If you don't mind me just chiming in quickly to just slightly build on what Rachel said about the mums side of things. As Facebook can be very expensive to advertise on, I think the power of local Facebook groups, if you do want to kind of look at mums, I guess, as a demographic, there are just endless amounts of like mums groups where they're sharing all kinds of information about, you know, how they, you know, raising their kids, how they're schooling their kids, and a lot of the time I think stuff about cosmetics. I know very little about cosmetics, and obviously very little about being a mum. But when I've done previous stuff, I've been involved in that. So you could use Facebook to your advantage, and you could essentially advertise into a group, depending on what that group's rules are. But that could be another way of generating leads.
I think that's a really good idea, Medwin. And like where we live, we've got a village chat group, which I think anybody can join. And if you put a before and after picture of you with the cosmetics, and like, do you want to have a little party for your friends, and it's no cost, and you're going to get some stuff afterwards? I would have thought that would be a really good avenue. What Medwin said.
That's a really good shout, actually.
Before and after of myself, yeah.
well,
I could do that. I could do that.
Point. And we'll come to this in a bit. You have to be a little bit careful, by the way, Laurie. And you'll, if you, everyone's been out doing in-person networking, which is a wonderful thing to do, but you are occasionally going to come across somebody who's only ever in transmit mode. They don't really want a conversation. They want to sell you something. And I have to say, cosmetics features heavily in that psyche. Coffee, utility warehouse also features. They're not really there to engage in dialogue and have a constructive conversation. They're just, you have to be really careful. Facebook groups are similar. And I'm really glad I wouldn't have mentioned Facebook groups because I'm not in that zone, but I think to go in a Facebook group and constantly, here's my latest offer kind of thing, it puts you in a certain bracket. You're not really building relationships. So if you can go in maybe with some helpful advice around now, Medwin, do you, I'm speaking to Medwin, but it's open to everyone. Has anyone ever heard of Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk online? When you go back on LinkedIn, you'll probably be inundated with stuff that was Gary V. He is, he's got about 7 million sort of followers, which is more, I think, than Bill Gates. But he talks about jab, jab, punch, which I think was a Mike Tyson boxing strategy. So 2 bits of value, and then the punch is where, okay, you're selling something, you want someone to buy something. So point is that people will forgive you asking to buy something if you've given some value beforehand. And that is true of the sale of cosmetics to the sale of sales coaching. Okay, and this is so I'm very conscious that at times I've been on LinkedIn and the only thing I've been telling people is buy my course. And actually, you know, I'm not building trust. So I have to look myself in the mirror sometimes just to say, have I got the balance right? But the whole thing about jab, jab, punch is a great way of describing, let's give some value first, build some trust, build some relationships, give some insight, whatever on whatever business it might be focused on. And then you're paving the way for people to buy from you. So it's business development in this brave new world of online selling. So, and that's what makes, and that's why the people that do my social media, and no offense, Medwin, I would estimate you're the same age, because they kind of know this as well much better than I do, so I have no issues, and I can learn just as much from young people, and that is very different to what it was 10-20 years ago. I can learn just as much from young person like Medwin, and I'm getting into big trouble now. It's not meant to be patronizing, Medwin. It's supposed to be warm and encouraging. Okay, and you can get me later, for that. Okay, right. So, what's next? So, can you you might need to forgive me, but have we talked about? I think we have talked about avatars before on this. And have you sort of fleshed out your avatars to, let's say, 3 individual types of customer?
Can I jump in there?
Please do, yeah.
Okay, so for my Mary Kay, I learned yesterday in a very brutal fashion that I should be focusing only on teenagers and 20-somethings, because the products are not good enough quality. Well, actually, they are really good quality, but of course they're making assumptions because it's direct sales. It's not being bought in Brown Thomas, so it can't be the same quality. And that's the perception. So that makes sense that I would go to teenagers, and then their moms would use the products and find out how really good they were. So 20-somethings who are looking to wear party makeup is my avatar at the moment, but I don't know how to reach them.
Well, that's it's a shame Rebecca's not on this morning, and if she'll be listening to this in recording, I feel sure. So Rebecca, Laurie, if you wouldn't mind, if Rebecca's got some ideas in that area, maybe would that be okay? I've just volunteered.
I would love that. I would love that.
But this is the whole point of talking together. So good. So anyone else on avatars, or if not, we'll move on. Okay, brilliant. Sorry, forgive me that, but ADD is the thing. Okay, right now. I hope you got your sense of humours on just now. Daryl, I don't know if you've seen this before. I hope not, but I'm going to have to share my sound on this. So all of that effort that we go around generating leads, but we don't just want any old kind of lead. We want this section is called generating the right kind of leads. So going to play it. This is about just under a minute long. And this just encapsulates what might happen if you get the wrong kind of lead.
Mom's lemonade wasn't so bloody delicious.
We're going to be late. Just hold it in. Okay?
I can't hold. I really need to go. I'm not joking. Come on, we need to pull over.
Shay, just go in a bottle. Just go in a bottle, Fitzy. Come on, it would actually be hilarious. Go in a
You're
bottle.
not serious. Where'd that come from? No way!
Go!
Oh my God!
Go!
Oh, I can't believe I'm going to do this. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Fine.
Fitzy, you're hilarious.
Look away. Look away.
You're mental. You're mental.
This is mental. I can't believe you guys made me do this.
Oh, get off.
You bloody reprobate. Bloody lemonade. Running straight through me.
Okay, right. That can either make or break a session. I recognise that, but actually, the point was they thought they were promoting one activity, but what they got in return was quite another. So that's okay. Right, Laurie, do you need a break? Or are you okay? Right. Right. Okay.
Just my kind of humor. It is just my kind.
Okay. I thought you might get the accent as well. So now I don't know what program that's from, but it's my cup of tea. Anyway, listen. I hope you didn't find that offensive, but I just thought it was a great way of. Okay. Right. Rachel's very silent. Let's move on. Right. So. Right. I know this is an old, pale, stale male sort of chap. He would have turned in his grave when he found out what happened to his company, Marconi. A guy called Lord Weinstock, and he said this about business: one thing worse than no business is bad business. And I know when you're first starting out in business, or sometimes when you're just on a new sales campaign, which is the same thing, to have no leads coming in can be somewhat perturbing, if you like. But the one thing worse than that is to have the wrong kind of leads, because a lead is just an opportunity to waste your time, and it's what you do with that lead, whether you disqualify it, i.e. that's not quite the right fit for us. Thank you very much. But we need to be looking at some other leads instead. That's the kind of conversations that I think we need to be having. And I think in the modern day, in the current way the world is working, where time is at an absolute premium, and we just got a different way of doing things than we had even 3 years ago. It's up to us, and especially Rachel, if you're working in a very particular kind of program that it's no longer a 4-sided shape, it's a 63-sided shape, and you've got to look just like that to qualify for a particular training package that's coming on down the line.
Yeah, I sort of realised the hard way when I first started. I wasted a hell of a lot of time at networking events where the right people weren't, which led to me making up hours on the night and all sorts of things. And now I look back, I just think this last year or so has gone so well purely because I focused on the right leads and the right places. And it's not working harder, it's working smarter. Sorry, that's very cliche.
Have you come across the Dilbert series of cartoons? I don't know if anyone knows Dilbert. They're absolutely fantastic. If I can find a link, Scott Larson, that might be someone. They're absolutely fantastic, but they've got a pointy head boss, and it's, if you've ever worked in Corporateville, you'll really be able to relate to that. Anyway, I'm off on a now. Catherine is my friend. She's based in Dublin, and she came to me, and she allows me to talk about this, by the way. But she came to me with I can't even remember how she came to me. I think it was a referral of some kind. And she boxed herself into a corner. She was doing some coaching with startups, with the local development corporations in Southern Ireland, in the Republic. And we go through this. So she'd been a CEO of a £1 million or so turnover recruitment company. So she kind of knew her way around town, around business, and all the rest of it. She's been a coach, successfully coaching sort of early stage or startup type businesses. And she was famous. She got herself a real reputation in that space, which was fantastic. But because of the way they worked, she was only able to bill 40 hours a week, but she found herself working 60 hours a week. Now, that may not be happening to everyone, but it's very easy to sleepwalk your way into that sort of MO if you're not careful. She's boxed in. She'd become, I don't really like that term busy fool, but actually it describes what's going on in her world. And so we worked together by, she was targeting the wrong kind of leads, but at least she'd come to the realization of what was happening instead of, just repeating the same old process all the time. So we got her focused on understanding what was happening, focused on what does she really want to do? She wanted to use the experience from her recruitment business, which was obviously putting her at a slightly higher level, more mature businesses, senior execs in those businesses. In other words, a different kind of avatar. That's the message. Different kind of avatar. And she now works 40 hours a week. She loves it, but also, excuse me, she's billing the right kind of numbers. So she's now got a business worth much more than what she was doing previously. And that's the importance of having the right kind of avatar, making sure that everything you do is focused on and addressing the market that particular avatar wants. Okay, right. So this is something that that always gets me is marketing MQL, marketing qualified leads versus sales qualified leads. So a lead for me, so in other words, what is a lead? A lead for me is a red hot opportunity where someone wants to buy right here, right now. It's that thing that Midwin was talking about a few minutes ago. Someone came in on live chat, wherever it came from, and you were there nurturing and taking that lead through whatever process is relevant for your business, and what we would say prosecuting that lead, selling to them or walking away politely because it's not the right kind of thing. But then you were fully engaged. That's a sales qualified lead. Whereas the likelihood is a lead will come to you with what's called marketing qualified. So they're just not ready to buy right now, but they are the kind of customer that you would like to engage with. And so you're going to have to take their data, but you're winning their email address, which is what you really want. You get them into your system. So I think the game we're all playing now in the digital world is enticing people into our worlds with their email addresses so that we can curate their data, communicate with them in a sort of low tension way, that jab punch way that I just talked about. And when they're in their buying position, we're in their consciousness and they will engage with us because we've already been qualifying them. We've been drip feeding them with value of some kind. And then they'll come to us when they're ready to buy. Does that mean they're going to buy from us? No, clearly not. But we've been qualifying them, sending them the right kind of information so that when they want to exit their business, Daryl, or when they want the next training program or coaching because they've got some difficulties going on with the children, Laurie, or they want compliance sales training, Midwin, then we've curated that data. It's an investment for the long term, and that's why it's a passive way to generate leads. That's my point. So, cold hard facts, 2 types. We've already talked about that. So actives from you, where you're proactively going out and developing. Passive will be social media awareness. So, Laurie, you do a podcast, if I remember correctly. And I know you've been doing something on LinkedIn audio as well.
I don't do a podcast. I do podcast guesting, where I go to other people who have podcasts, because they've already got a warm audience, people who trust them. So I'm reaching out to more people by going to a variety of different podcasts.
So I would call that's okay. Same answer. You're building awareness of your brand, of your offer by doing so, and I think that's a fantastic. And podcasts, if you don't do them or guest on them, are a great way to learn. I listen to them in the car when I'm making a longer journey. They're really easy, kind of bite-sized pieces of information. So I'd target it. I'm not going to do that. Messaging. Cold calling is slightly different. Okay, so some soft warm facts around that is that, oh yeah, answer me this then. It's not what you know. There's an owl in the building. It's it's who you know. Yeah, that would be. Now that will never completely disappear. Really, those referrals that you've been talking about really helpful to know lots of people. But I think in the modern world, it's not about who you know; it's about who knows you. And because that will always be a bigger number that know you, that know your persona, because they're always seeing your content on TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever it happens to be. And so it's who knows you, which is much more powerful for your business than who you know. Although who you know is useful, it will never completely go away, but it has its moment. But who knows you is much more important. I'd already mentioned about 70% of buyers inbound leads have already done their research, that whole know, like, trust, because you've been making people aware of what you do. It's Laurie on LinkedIn, and therefore I know what she's going to be talking about. I'll engage, etc., etc. That's really, really important. So it's a buying signal already. Yeah, I mentioned, when you go to these events, the one thing that's it's really tiresome and someone that only wants to sell you stuff. But it happens an awful lot. It's about building relationships. When you're going out networking, or if you're part of a networking organization, there's lots, we'll talk about those in a bit. There are loads of them, but you can't expect to join a networking organization and do business, on the second day. That's not a reasonable expectation. These things are slow burns. They take time because they have to trust you. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna get into their consciousness, value, point of view. Okay, right. Now, self-past. Can I suggest 5 minutes, quick cup of coffee? It is actually, yeah, it is 10:31. So if we come back to 10:36, is that okay? Fantastic. All right. See you shortly. Chat. Okay. How are we doing? Right, welcome back. I wanted to Dory and Rachel will be back in a second. Okay, so I'm going to carry on if that's okay. Let's excuse me. I don't know if you'll have come across this person or not, but a guy called Scott McNeely, who was CEO of a company called Sun Microsystems, hence the background there. Maybe when I don't know if you'll have come across that. They're part of Oracle Corporation, which Oracle software company.
Familiar with Oracle, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So I went for an interview with I've been around a long time. I went for an interview with Scott a long time ago. I didn't take the job, mainly because it wasn't offered. But he said, when I asked him about strategy, what's your strategy? He said something to me that was quite unusual, but it stuck with me all this time. And it must be 25, 26 years ago since I had that conversation. He said, our strategy is to be tactical. Now, that goes against almost, or went against almost every bit of teaching that I've come across before. He, where you're told you've got to have a strategy, it's got to be the right strategy, and all of that. And so the whole idea of our strategy is to be tactical really fired up my imagination, to be absolutely honest. And what he, by the way, he sold his company to Oracle. Yeah, 7.4 billion. That was 13 years ago when 7.4 billion was a lot of money. So it worked. Point is, it worked. So I can see an awful lot, given that we're kind of we've got to be in the moment for lead generation. And so I think a strategy to be tactical, I'm not saying it's the right one for your business, I'm saying it is something to be wary of. And I think to reinterpret that in the modern day parlance, it would be, where's your business coming from? And that feedback loop that kind of tells you what you think is happening in your business versus what's actually happening in business when you go back and look at the data, be it 30-day data or be it 12-month data. It's incredibly important. So I think actually his statement around our strategy is to be tactical is probably more important today than it was 25, 26 years ago when I first heard that statement. Anyway, I'll throw that out there for consideration. So this is what we're all doing. We're all doing a load of stuff at the moment. And because what we want is we want data, or when we say data, well, email addresses, the right kind of email addresses coming into our system. I believe that's the game we are all playing. So we're going to do the right things for our business and the right things for our customers, but actually in terms of lead generation, what we want is email addresses so that we can communicate with people, with I say communicate with organizations. We only ever communicate with people who are part of organizations. And so everything that we've been talking about, and actually we've been everywhere this morning, which has been fantastic. We've talked about referrals, we've talked about customers, we've talked about vendor lists in some way, shape or form. We talked about worksite or website marketing and proactive marketing campaigns. All of this, or being guesting on podcasts, all of this is around developing awareness of our brand, authority on our subject matter. I hesitate to use the words expertise, and I'll always let my customers decide whether I'm an expert as opposed to a self-appointed expert or guru, which I'm always a little cynical about. There's lots of those self-proclaimed people about in the marketplace, and it turns out they know half as much as you know. But it's important to be aware of those. So everything we're doing is coming into a funnel, and that funnel is going to go through different various stages, and it's either going to fall out at the bottom as they're going to do business elsewhere, for whatever reason that might be, or it's going to turn into cash for our business. So as soon as it comes in, we're going to nurture it and curate it. The curator of the data. I'm sure there's a rap or hop song that's going to. Yeah, no, okay, all right. Let me move on. Right, so Ada. Now, on the last cohort, I did this. So Medwin, have you come across Ada before?
Not as like this, essentially. Now, I haven't heard of it, but I feel like I recognise the journey that is being shown.
On the last cohort where I did this, I got a respectful challenge back to say that Ada's old. There's something else in place now, and that may well be true. There are going to be loads of different variations of this principle, and actually don't mind. This is not I've got the monopoly on wisdom. I just want to take us through this kind of process. Ada has been around since 1889 by an advertising executive who kind of made it up well before any of the technologies that are around. My point is, it stood the test of time. It's really simple to understand, and when you can sort of apply it to your own business and your own funnel, if you like, I think it has real power. So this whole concept, what we were talking about before, about all our activities are creating awareness, at least, then we have to work out, if we believe those are the 4 stages of funnel, and the action at the bottom is either going to be we do business or we don't do business with those people. What are we going to do at each level of that funnel to take them to the next stage? So we've got awareness, fantastic, they're on our list. What are we going to do to create some actual interest, some engagement? Perhaps it's now perhaps it's going to be a lead magnet of some kind. Does that phrase translate to everyone? Okay, so have you got an example, Medwin, of a lead magnet for your business?
It's not actually for our business. It's something I learned a few years ago
Okay.
when I was working as a tour guide. Is everyone familiar with Selfridges in London? So Harry Selfridge, who came over from the States, one day, I think it was actually during the Second World War, because they were still open as the war was on, as a place for kind of people to experience some kind of escapism. But he realized that he wasn't essentially using the human senses to his advantage. So he moved his entire floor of fragrance to the bottom level of the building, and then just kept the doors open. And that was his policy. The doors are open. If people are enticed by the smell of the perfume, they may not come in to buy perfume, but there's other stuff they're going to see that they might be interested in. Which is, I guess, also what I quite like about live chat. It's an open window, it's an open door. People can come in and see what they like.
No, it's a great story.
I don't know if that's a good example or not, but I think in terms of generating interest, a lot of people don't think about the nose, and that's why perfume is on the bottom floor of department stores.
Well, I never knew that. But also that's highly relevant. Maybe Laura can build that kind of thinking into your. Nothing comes to mind for the moment, but that might be interesting. I was in Harrods, Different Life, and we were escorted out of the perfume. That's what came to mind. Of the perfume, sort of. Well, you can imagine it's a massive room on the bottom floor of or the ground floor of Harrods, and they all the security people came in, escorted all the hoi polloi out, while a certain Joan Collins came in and spent 150 quid at the counter. My girlfriend at the time was working behind the counter, and she served Joan. That's what all the commotion was about. I think they would, and that how times change. That would be manifestly different now. They wouldn't shut it down for someone to come in and make their purchase. They'd want that all over the internet, something like that, because people will be filming, and it adds value to that whole experience and the whole aura of Selfridges or Harrods and all of that. And if you've never been to Selfridges, it's a great experience going in a place like that. Good story, thanks, Medwin. So awareness and conversion of, okay, so you might not be buying your lead magnet. That's where we are coming from. What's it going to be? Now, I've got to believe that each of us on here, we're going to have some sort of story to tell that could entice people to the next level of our funnel. So, Laura, you're going to have before and after stories. In fact, before and after is actually what we're all doing, because if you think about it, because Daryl's going to have frustrated clients that just don't know what they're doing. They need an exit strategy, and you're going to work with them. I know you've got other customers and prospects as well, but that's a story of before and after. Medwin, the same with you, with your customers. It's going to be before compliance levels were low, after compliance levels are high. That's going to be the story of before and after. And Rachel, similarly with Enterprise Works. It's going to be a story of before and after. And for me in particular, when I do my stuff, it's going to be the numbers. It's going to be, we had this many views on LinkedIn, or it's going to be, we're doing this amount of business, and now we're doing this amount of business. Everything is before and after. So telling those stories in a way that's informing rather than selling, I think it's really important, and it forms part of the jab, jab, punch thing. By the way, in the chat, I've put Gary V's profile in there. He might be, you don't have to, he might be someone you want to follow on LinkedIn, because he really does know his stuff. And you know, what's that thing they say? You copy one person's content, it's called plagiarism. If you copy loads of people's content, it's called research. So with that in mind, I encourage you to engage with Gary V's content. The other thing is, just while this comes to mind, is that lots of people will go onto a Gary V post, which is going to have, because of the following he's got, it's going to have 5,000, 10,000 likes, not uncommon because of his network. You can actually, if you think about this in advance, you could say something that's quite profound. You can make a statement which is relevant for the post, but also relevant to your business. And so you can create a noise in a post that is already noisy, that's already generating a lot of noise. So I've got so this is a form of, well, it's lead generation. So I was involved in a Clubhouse. Does anyone know Clubhouse?
Yeah.
By the way, okay. So I've been on Clubhouse a few times as a guest, I suppose. Yeah, a guest, exactly like Laurie does with her podcast guesting. And someone was so this thing has got loads of listeners, followers, and I was involved as a guest. They're talking about sales, so I was talking about my theory of the world, point of view, and someone was listening to that who I'd never engaged with before, but they heard my content, my background, and all the rest of it. And they went from being someone I'd never heard of to connecting with me on LinkedIn as the Clubhouse room was going, to being a client, having paid all the money up front within 19 hours. So I know that Clubhouse is a place where I can go to and create some awareness around my personal brand whilst delivering value too. So now Clubhouse's numbers have come down quite a lot over the last year or so since lockdown finished and we're all out going out and about. But Laurie, I noticed that you do LinkedIn audio, which is a relatively new activity on LinkedIn, which is really the same offer as Clubhouse, but of course has got the Microsoft and LinkedIn brand. So how's that going?
It's really interesting. I am seeming to build a lot of trust with people, even though only between 8 and 13 people actually arrive to every event. I'm doing one event every morning. It's a half an hour from 7:45 in the morning to 8:15. I'm just talking to different people. And what's very interesting about this, Keith, and is very specific to our conversation right now, is on the first day, I talked to Nora Day. Okay. And Nora, she started telling stories about her grandmother and telling stories about this thing and that thing and how it is that she became what she is today. And it was a lovely little journey through the history of Ireland. The next day, I talked to another person who started telling all kinds of stories. Yesterday, the speaker talked about health. She's an addiction counselor, and all she did was talk about health, talk about the kind of food you eat, your internal biome, and all of this stuff. Is very interesting content, very useful to anybody who is listening and paying attention. I learned a lot, but my listeners dropped off to 0 before the half hour was up. Every other day they stuck around for an extra 10 minutes. So people who, when you're trying to build trust with people, you don't tell them what you know. What you do is you tell them about yourself. You know, that was a huge thing I learned yesterday. It was pretty cool because today all we did was tell stories, and the whole thing went 45 minutes.
Okay, Wow. Okay. So learning in real time, which is fantastic. Yeah, good point. So and LinkedIn, of course, this is about creating your own community, creating your own followers, which is a scary concept. But actually, and I'm not a mindset coach, but we're going to have to get over ourselves to the point whereby we realize that's the game. In the modern day, we're going to create following, whether it's around our brand or ourselves. We're going to be in there somewhere. So it's really important that we get that right and get the avatars right. Okay, so that was my greater point around conversion, and so really good point from Laurie.
And also, just for a little statistics, I started doing this 8 days ago. My followers went from 475 up to 700 something now.
Wow.
Which is weird because there are only like 7 or 8 listeners in a meeting. But that's the only thing I've been doing differently.
That's right. And you can, okay. That is interesting. I've only ever been in the audience on one of those, so I can't speak about LinkedIn audio with any great authority. But I've got to believe, since the story you've just told is similar to others that I've heard as well, it's something that's worth considering. And I've already mentioned that podcasts are really popular because you can listen to them as you're walking the dog, cat, whatever it is you take out for a walk in the morning. I don't know, but anyway, but you can pick and choose your times as well. Making the breakfast, it's a thing, right? Okay, so what are you going to do between? So let us take 60 seconds just to focus on. I am on shared screen. Focus on this at the minute, and let's take 60 seconds to. What have we got? What have we got in our current arsenal or tool chest, if you like, that could create a bit of a journey for customers from the top to the bottom? Let's just take 60 seconds to think about that.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. What are we thinking?
Okay, so what have we got? What have we got that's I'm thinking of a before and after story, something that we can offer our audience that we think will take them from an awareness to interest, from interest to desire to action, that whole jab, punch kind of thing. So have we got 2 or 3 different tools, magnets or something like that, lead magnets as they're called, to take them on that journey? So 10 seconds. Okay. How did we get on? Did we have any thoughts, or are we lost? Or
It wasn't clear to me.
I'm sorry.
No, no, it's not. No, I think it's so really. So awareness. I've put. It's about raising. It's about case studies, as you said, the sort of that type of it. Interest is then probably going to the next level of detail, because it might be that, for example, I'm thinking of say, for example, Wallaxy or something like that. Wallaxy is something where you raise some awareness of perhaps what you do. From that, you gain a connection. The next stage to that is that you might sort of discuss a case study and something that you've done. Based upon that first post, then hopefully that generates conversations based upon context, which hopefully ends up in a meeting, which then decides whether it's real or not. Does that make sense? Is that what you mean?
That's exactly what I meant. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's taking them through a customer journey, which could be either in your funnel, in your email funnel, or it could be at some point. Interest desire is going to manifest itself in terms of a one-to-one meeting, perhaps over Zoom or in person, but it's the same principle leading to action. So I think that was a really good example you gave just then, reaching out to someone, act proactively on LinkedIn, because you've written an audience, or you've compiled an audience of relevant avatars, if you like.
Yeah.
And taking, you mentioned Wallaxy there. It doesn't matter if you don't know, but do you?
So it's the same principle. I think really is that, I suppose, with clearly what Wallaxy is, it's an auto lead generator, and I think what I've found, there's lots of different ways to use it. I think when you first come across it, you think, oh, I don't like that. I don't like the principle. But actually what it's very good at is, for example, is just growing a network that works for you.
Yeah. And
I think you do that very much by sending a message that makes some sort of sense. From that, you tend to get quite a high conversion rate. And I think really is that when you do get some engagement, I always want to engage back. It might just be saying thank you or whatever, or thanks for the update, etc. And then the other side of it is actually, if you like, it's just sending a message to somebody when they're in a situation thinking about buying something, and hopefully their thought process obviously matches with yours. So it's quite efficient, and I think in the right way, it does generate some quite positive conversations. I don't think it's a quick win. I think it's a case that you might get to a Zoom meeting, Teams meeting fairly quickly, but that's the point when really it's going to be all about your credibility. Yeah. And reinforcing what you do and what options that you've got. Part of what you have to consider is that, well, and this is just the way I am, it won't be right or wrong, is that if somebody responds and says he might be interested in having a chat, you've got to put yourself out to have that chat. And sometimes that person might not be exactly what you want or who you want to talk to. But it's a case that at least by having that conversation, it's about logging something into that person's consciousness that actually, oh, Daryl knows about exit planning. He knows about business growth. He's told me that story, and it may lead to something in 3 days' time or 3 years' time.
I think that's a great shout. But you've done the work up front in identifying your target market. Someone's coming forward to, let's have a chat.
Yes, what I do at the moment is I use Sales Navigator to do some very specific searches. That then obviously gives me people that are in my sort of the people I want to talk to. So let's say for me, a good networking contact is, let's say, an accountant. Accountants, obviously, they deal with businesses. So for an accountant, I'm probably just going to send a happy message, something saying who I am, and that's cultivating that network. On the other side of it, I might do a search which is very specific. It'll be a business owner, and then that's one where you are cultivating a conversation. Or sometimes you've got to be a little bit sort of ruthless and say, don't be pleasant, just send a connection, see if that connects, and then from there you almost get to selling. straight away. 5 days later, they're going to get a post which says, "Are you interested in scaling your business?" But even from that, I think these days, because of how people are changing, is that actually they do engage.
Yeah.
You get the odd one that says, "Don't sell to me." And if they do, I try and make a bit of a joke about it.
Yes,
It's the world that we live in today. Be a bit grown up about it.
indeed. No, and what's the point of having a network if it can't work for you? Otherwise, it's just a vanity exercise in the amount of connections you're amassing. But yes, of course, we're going to give value out to our network, or I hope we are. But at the end of the day, it's got to provide a return on investment. And that investment is not just, financial, it's in terms of effort. Well, I suppose you could argue it's all financial.
Because I suppose, as you said, the next stage is there's various ways about it. And thinking from a strategy point of view, is that once you keep cultivating known groups, they become your first connections.
Yeah.
And then it becomes quite a good forum in terms of, sending out case studies or direct communications that actually might be helpful to them.
Yeah. Exactly right, but it's relevant, and you've already qualified their relevance to the world that you're creating. Looking very thoughtful there, Medwin. Anything? What's going on? Tell us.
I'm just going back through my notes to just make sure that I've got everything. But I was just kind of thinking, LinkedIn is something that I am going to need to work on, because I don't even have a LinkedIn account. I know very little about it. So I'm just noting down that I need to do some background research on essentially how it works, what the etiquette is.
Okay. I might be able to help you there. God, I hope so. But as part of this package, you get half an hour one-on-one with me on your LinkedIn profile. And so I'm going to put that out as a message to everyone, including Rebecca, of course, that we need to get that half hour booked in. Now, I'm happy to do it as a broader group session, but the spirit of coming onto this program was that I would give it as a one-to-one on your sort of personal profile. Excuse me.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So maybe that's something we could actually do in York over a coffee at some point. Either or.
Yeah, I've done that. I did that with Keith probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And although I'd got a number of connections at the time, probably just going through that, as you say, the half an hour chat, I can't remember, about making sure your profile says who you are, and just, it gives you a good step-by-step guide. And I think, like anything, it's about having good foundations in place. So it's worthwhile doing, because, even somebody that's been on it for years, you think you know what you're doing. Yeah. But actually, it is about getting the right message across there and getting people to know who you are.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Laurie, we're not going to be able to do that in person, I'm afraid, but I'm very happy to do it. Well, we are. We're just not going to be in the same room.
You can fly over to Ireland. It's only like €69 round trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
But I'll buy you lunch and you buy your ticket.
Okay. Okay, well, as Darryl will know, that could be more expensive on your part than my ticket. So, but anyway, in there, I don't know if anyone's got the. I'll send you a Calendly link, which is an evergreen link. You can put some time in my calendar, and we'll do that. We'll go through your your LinkedIn profile. Now that I know more about your businesses, then that will have more impact. And Darryl, I know we did this once 4 or 5 months ago, but I'm happy to do that again.
Yeah,
if you find that helpful. Okay, right, brilliant. Let's get. We've still got a bit to. This is really good engagement, though. So thank you for that. Right, let's go back to here again. Hopefully, you'll be able to see that on your screens now. Right. Right, your turn. By the way, we're allowed to use that now. That's taken about 13 years ago on a Devon beach, and it was during lockdown. The story of how that photo came about. It was just one of those miraculous moments in time with there weren't really an aggressive child, it was just the facial expression they got caught with. Anyway, listen, I thought you'd like to know. All right, customer avatars. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, now, do we feel we've already done this, or would this be worth doing again?
I'm happy to go through again. I think it's
Given that we started at the beginning, we've done a load of stuff in the meantime, might be worth doing that again. So I'm going to give us another 60 seconds to for you to go through that, and then I'm going to tell you who Jane, Rami, and Edward are for me. Okay.
I'm sorry, Keith, I just don't understand the table.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Right.
think I've got it.
Okay, so your this is describing your avatars. As have they changed since the beginning when we originally described our avatars? Has anything happened? And if the answer is no, they're still the same as they were, that's fine. But with the additional inputs that we've had over the last hour and 3/4, has it brought anything to mind where you've changed who you're going after, what they might look like as a person? Has it changed? If it hasn't, that's absolutely fine. But if it has, let's find out.
So what is column 3? This is who else we've done it for. I don't get that.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so right, so Jane is for me a small marketing consultancy, less than 9 people. They do innovation for universities. I know I can work with people like Jane because I've done it for her and I've done it for other customers just like that. And remember, I'm talking about my business now, not your business. So if anyone comes through my sort of digital door, my website, my LinkedIn, whatever that might be, and they kind of look like Jane in terms of marketing consultancy, their target market, I know I can help.
Okay.
Now,
And that's under your fundamentals box.
that's the fundamentals was
The marketing.
yeah, that's right. The kind of size of company, what they do for a living,
And anyone else who does that too.
and anyone else that looks like that. And the most important thing, the result I delivered. So it wasn't just that I've worked with someone like that. I know what the result was, which is in her case winning quite a big deal for her.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting everyone.
Not at all. Would you like another minute to kind of think about that?
I think I'm good.
Okay, good. Anyone else want to volunteer? What your thoughts are?
60 seconds isn't long, but I've got, if you like, number 1, I'll call him Sid because it's basically he's got a startup. He's got so far, and he's looking for growth now and stability. So from that, what I've done to demonstrate that is really looking in terms of really reinforce the business planning stage with a small startup business. and I've continued to talk to them over the last sort of 3 months to get that stability so that they understand where they are, so that they've actually got some foundations in place. The next one, who I've called Eric, who's probably been doing the same thing for most of his life, he's doing okay, but he's had a number of challenges, and one of the challenges he's got at the moment is that he's faced with a significant cost increase. And from there, I'm talking to him about work that I did previously with Tricorn, which was all about reducing turnovers, increasing costs, and very clear week-to-week management. And then established to exit, so I'll call that one Bertha. That person in this case is actually, it's a very young Bertha. She's sort of 22 years old. She's in a place that she never expected to be. She doesn't want to be there, so she needs a way out. And unfortunately for me, when I've done my diagnosis and digging through all of the details, I found that actually the business is in a bit of trouble. So from that, we've probably spent quite a lot of time now on a journey in terms of realizing where they need to be and who their target buyer is, and we're just restarting that campaign again.
Fantastic, nice one. Okay, Medwin.
So for me, I don't think the avatars themselves necessarily have checked. Well, for us, it's more of like a 2 avatar situation. You're either a big local authority organization, or you're a much smaller business or charity. I've just written down some homework for myself to create a potential third, because for me, that it's not necessarily that our avatars are changing, but it's going to be more about how I change how we go and find them and bring them into the fold, so to speak.
Okay.
So I've written down a few things for me to start thinking about and put some time aside this week to
Good.
That makes sense. I've given myself
the point isn't necessarily that your avatar's changed. The point is that your thinking has changed, and I'm looking for any way out now. But anyway, the point is that your thinking has changed. So something has resonated.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff has resonated today, and I've got a lot of interesting things that I'd like to look into that I hadn't considered before. So this has been really useful.
Good news. Good news. Rachel, anything from you? Doesn't matter if there isn't, but
No, I think this has been really good, because I think when I started, I had like one avatar, but now I think I need to have 3 or 4, to be honest. And it's actually helped me in that, although my pool is really wide, in a way it's not wide, because we've got the offers of training. So training, that would be somebody under 50 employees, because otherwise if they're over 50 employees, then they're going to have their own in-house processes and they're not going to need the university. And in terms of somebody wanting an intern, they're going to need to be a York or Harrogate based business. They're probably going to be under 20 employees, because they're struggling, they can't do all the jobs. So actually an intern would be a really nice idea for them. They might have a bit of degree level work for them. And then in terms of things like knowledge transfer, partnerships, consultancy with the university, these are going to be much bigger businesses, 250 employees. They're going to be really high innovation. They're going to be, I've got to also think what they're doing. Would that fit with what the university can offer? Is there a similar department or synergy there? And then did a marketing qualification recently, and we did use ADA, and we also used the GRIP process as well. So differentiate, reinforce, inform, and persuade. So I feel like with all these different avatars, they actually need a different message rather than one message across the board. Yeah. For the bigger ones, the KTPs, they're going to be, did you know that we do this? Communication 1. Number 2, here's a business we've worked with, this is what we've done for them. They're quite similar to you. Is there anything that you're looking for? Communication 3, can I set up a Zoom with X academic? And then 4, you go in and you close the business. So it's not like same communication over again. It's building that trust, and then, you know, build, you know, awareness, then building the trust, and then going in, let's have an appointment.
You're sounding like you're in sales, Rachel.
Yeah.
I'm both, Keith. I'm
is-
both. But marketing and sales are very different.
What's IMP, did you say, for drip?
Sorry?
What was IMP? You said in your process,
Oh, inform,
inform,
and persuade.
persuade.
So differentiate, first of all, what makes you different
Yeah.
to everybody else? Why are you better? And then reinforce that message with, did you know we've worked with so-and-so?
Yeah.
We do this for you, and then going in, let's have a meeting.
Yeah, it flows quite well, that does, doesn't it?
Sorry, just to clarify for my notes. So differentiate, reinforce,
Inform.
inform,
And
persuade.
persuade. I'll send you a link to it.
Fantastic. We should swap seats, Rachel.
I don't think so, but I do like
Thank you.
yeah, quite nice how those, like, you've made the ADA, that it really makes you think about your offer, and you can't just go out there with your message. You've got to really tone it down for somebody, which takes time.
It really does, and a lot of thinking about beforehand, before the fact. So I'm really encouraged to hear that. So it's, rather than a machine gun, sort of scattergun effect, it's a sniper, retargeted message. Okay, so brilliant. Thank you for that, and thanks for the link in the chat. Right, so we're into the last 8 minutes. I want to respect everyone's time, so I just wanted to go through and do a bit more on active lead generation. Now that the world, I don't know how everyone feels. I know COVID numbers are going up now, but I feel more comfortable going out, meeting people. For me, we're in the manage stage rather than be afraid stage, sort of thing. If you're not, that's absolutely fine. But then I wanted to talk about active, where proactively going about. I've made you laugh, Daryl. What am I doing?
I was just thinking about my attitude.
Really?
Well, what's the point in worrying about everything? Just get on with it.
Well, yeah. I think I'm at that stage kind of now. So I think all of these things are now starting to come into our foray, if you like. That the paid ads or Facebook in particular, which has been mentioned for Laurie's business. I don't necessarily know that you need to go to paid ads, Laurie, but certainly Facebook groups is something that's worth exploring. And I wonder if, again, if Rebecca is going to be watching this on playback, whether that's something that we could kind of talk a bit more about, if you'd like to know more about that. Put Rebecca on the spot. I don't actually know that she knows that business that well, but if not, I will invite someone onto this that can tell us a bit more about that. The telephone. Does anyone make what I would call a cold call? Do we do that these days? Or
I haven't done it for about 2 years.
right, okay.
It feels like, I think it's a post-COVID thing. People are just impossible to reach over the telephone anymore. Everyone who maybe used to function that way, I think, has just got sick of the ease of access that people have to them. So I've, even for like doctor's appointments, everything, I've pretty much given up on the phone. It's either I'm walking in and I'm looking someone in the eye, or I'm sending an email, and it doesn't feel like there's any in between. And I think that's a kind of across the board. But I don't think people want to pick up the phone anymore.
I think you're right.
I think you're right.
But
For me, that means an opportunity. Do you remember we focused a lot on what makes you different? And different can be everything, a different story, a different offer, a different approach is as important as being. So the very fact that now maybe because I'm in sales, but I respect people that are cold calling me. I don't respect if they're going to waste my time, because there is a way to do that constructively. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail now, but I would leave you with this. We talked about LinkedIn quite a bit, and I'm going to drop you a line with my Calendly, and we'll get those sessions booked in. But LinkedIn is different. With phone, you're right. Getting hold of someone's number is really difficult. There are ways to do it, but it's certainly not easy. I'm going to suggest this. This is something that really works for me, and that's to send a 30-second video over LinkedIn to someone. Now, you can only do that if you're connected with them, if they're a first line connection. So you can't send video message to all and sundry. You've got to be connected. And so the assumption is that they are one of your avatars if you're going to proactively connect with them. They're in your world. So if you've done your research on on your prospect, and so you're going to go to them with a message. Do you remember we played the Peaky Blinders sort of sketch? Tommy Shelby had done his research. He knew exactly what message was going to land with Billy Kimber. He told him something Billy Kimber didn't know about his own business. So that was bringing a gift. We'll talk about that later on. But he'd done his research up front. LinkedIn is amazing for doing that, but so is Google. And he knew his message was going to land. So you don't necessarily have to get through to someone on the phone. If you send a video message to someone, gosh, that is as close as you're going to get to a face-to-face meeting. And if you can make your message land in 30 seconds, because that's all you're going to have, what a fantastic opportunity that is. So let me throw that open to you now. How does everyone feel about creating a 30-second video message?
I need to practice because I'm rubbish now, videos.
I'm up for that. Sounds good.
So this is recording your own message, not like a professional company putting things together for you. And
I mean, if you've got the resources to do that. But actually, do you remember we're talking about people to people here? And I think over the last 2-3 years that everyone's been in, before the pandemic, you would have had to invest considerable sums in getting it just so. But actually, I think people are crying out for authenticity, so they'll forgive the fact that you've gone out of your way to send them not just a cold call, any old cold call, but a targeted, I know you're experiencing this and I can help you and I would love to have a chat. Or I believe I can help you. There's only one way to find out, and that's by having a quick chat. How are you fixed, etc. Yeah.
So when you say a video, you're talking about I record one video and send that video to a variety of different people. Rather than a specific video for you, Keith, and another one for you, Rachel. It would be.
I think it's a specific video that I'm thinking of. We're only talking single digits here, very targeted, not.
I can do that.
No, well, you could do either actually, but I think it's be.
Oh, the second one doesn't appeal to me at all. I don't like direct message marketing. I don't like it. But if it's an actual, like I'm calling to Medwin and I'm saying, hey, Medwin, look, this is the story. I could do that.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'm gonna send a link to a very short video I recorded for some advice on how to do a 30-second video. I'll send you that. If you wanted to send me a video on LinkedIn, the reason I like it going through LinkedIn is because if you're speaking to anyone at any sort of serious level in their business or the individual, chances are their assistant isn't managing their LinkedIn app or the messaging. They're managing it themselves. So if you send a 30-second message to someone, it's going to go directly to them. There are very few other opportunities where you're going to get a chance to do that. So if you're speaking to the CEO of a local authority, or if you want to, and you're connected on LinkedIn, I'm thinking Wokingham Borough Council, Midland, for instance, and you're connected to Susan, you can send a message, hey Susan, da 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 da, love to have a quick chat. And I think that's a fantastic, I think it's a fantastic way to engage with people, but that's just me. So I'm going to send you that video. We are out of time now. We're on share, so I just want to, we are most of the way sort of through. Jen, I've already done that. Yeah, we've already reflected. Summing up, next week we're going to be talking about listening skills and how to understand what the customer or prospect really wants to buy. And we're going to find out listening is actually much harder than just being quiet while the other person's talking. Much more to it than that. So hope that was useful. If there's anything else, message me, by all means, DM me on LinkedIn or send me an email or something like that. The recording will make its way through to you over the next day or so, along with slides for next week, if that's okay. Are there any other questions? Fantastic. Rebecca, we missed you. We'll see you next week, I hope. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
See you later.
Bye now.